You found the Backup Wrap-Up, your go-to podcast for all things backup, recovery, and cyber recovery. In this episode, we talk about a real nightmare scenario. It was a hack of an app called ArcGIS, and it went undetected for 12 months. That's right, an entire year. The threat group was called Flax Typhoon, and they compromised an ArcGIS server and turned a legitimate Java extension into a web shell. And every time the customer backed up their system, they were actually backing up the malware too. We talk about how this happened and why traditional security tools completely missed it, and what you could do, most importantly, to prevent something like this from happening to you. By the way, if you don't know who I am, I'm W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup, and I've been passionate about backup and recovery and now cyber recovery for over 30 years. Ever since I had to tell my boss that we had no backups of the production database that we just lost. I don't want that to happen to you. That's why I do this. On this podcast, we turn unappreciated admins into cyber recovery heroes. This is the Backup Wrap-Up. Welcome to the show. Hi, I'm W. Curtis Preston, aka Mr. Backup, and I have with me a guy that started poking around in my software, Prasanna Malaiyandi. How's it going, Prasanna?
Good, Curtis. How are you doing?
Doing okay. You can't just go into my thing and make changes and not tell me.
Well, this is because you complained that I don't do enough stuff, so I started doing stuff, and now you complain the other way.
You just gotta tell me. I mean, we're researching in this show. We're talking about software that you use all the time being used against you, and I log in and like there were changes. I didn't know there were changes. I got scared. I thought that our show about being hacked had been hacked. So let's jump in this story. And by the way, for our listeners, we're actually going to try something new. We're going to try not to talk so dang much. Our shows have typically gone 30 to 40 minutes. We're going to try to keep them a little shorter, see how that works. I think the primary problem with that is me. But
you do like to talk.
I do like to talk, yeah. So we're going to talk about this story of a customer of is it ArcGIS, I guess?
Yeah.
That's the way that would be pronounced. So this is a geographic information service. Is that what
I think? Yeah, I've heard about this. You can use it for like data analytics and other things about different areas and gather different statistics based off of it.
Yeah.
And so it helps you do analysis of a lot of different data sets.
And what it appears is that it was an actual piece of software that was installed on a server, and it turned out that a group called Flax Typhoon.
That's a new one.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it. Yeah, and they're a China-based APT threat group, or APT group, right? Advanced Persistent Threat, and they had managed to. What would you call it? Well, hack it, I guess. We'll just call it.
Well, so what they did was they hacked it, right? They found administrator credentials to the software. They accessed it, and then they basically deployed an extension.
Yeah. They call it a Java Server Object Extension, SOE, yeah.
Yeah, and they used that as sort of a backdoor into the system and gained access into the network and other things, and it all just looked normal. And I think one of the big things was, you know how we always talk about, okay, the best way to recover from ransomware is to have a backup that you could recover from?
Right.
Well, in this case, because of how these extensions work, people were actually backing up the extension. So if you ever try to restore from your backups, which is what we recommend, you would just restore the extension and therefore the malware.
Yeah, and so basically they turned this SOE into a functioning web shell that could do whatever they want. I think my favorite part of the story is that they put a password in their hack. So they had this backdoor that could do whatever they want, and then they went and put a password on it that basically said, only we can use the hack.
Yep, exactly.
And how long How long, Prasanna, were they in this customer's environment before
I
they
think
were
it was
discovered?
12 months, I want to say.
12 months.
Yep.
Let that sit with our listeners. They were in their environment for 12 months. Now, I just want to say it appears that none of this was not, ArcGIS was not hacked, right? This was not a vulnerability of ArcGIS.
It was just a compromise.
This was a compromise, but a compromise that was made possible, in my professional opinion, based on user error,
Yeah.
right? User misconfiguration, and then also, and we're gonna talk about that. Basically, and also it was the reason it was allowed to stay so long is because of, I think, the inherent trust that people put in stuff that they install and they use all the time.
And just to add one more thing to this is the way ArcGIS is deployed in this environment is you sort of had a public facing thing.
Right.
And then they also had an internal ArcGIS instance, which would kind of do all the work. But the public one would proxy request to the internal one. And so they also compromised things that way. So they were able to get access to the internal network because of that public facing ArcGIS server.
Yeah. Good times. And so what it appears is that they got, they somehow got a password from an administrative account.
Yep.
And then I do think it's funny that it does show in the article that they then changed the password of the administrative account, which I find interesting. Like does nobody ever log into the
They
admin
might
account?
not, right? Like once you have it up and running, it's like, why bother going? It may not be one of those systems you're constantly checking and monitoring for.
Yeah. So basically, they had this web shell that could do literally whatever they wanted. They poked around the customer's environment. They tried to go after a couple of different workstations.
It was IT workstations because they wanted to be able to get other credentials and access to other resources too.
Yeah. And so the first thing I want to talk about is the backup issue that you stated. So while you're right, we do always recommend backups of everything, right? And I tell people, even though I do think that you should be restoring data and apps and the OS like differently, just back it all up, right? Just back up everything. I'd much rather you just back up everything and have wasted space than to selectively select things and accidentally miss something important. But I do think that if they were trying to selectively restore this environment, it doesn't quite go the way I would think that you should if you've suspected an attack. At least I know in the upcoming book that would be Learning Ransomware Response and Recovery, we do recommend that for the operating system and for applications, you should be restoring this, as I make quotes in the air, from a golden image, not from a backup, that was taken anytime recently, right? And that, I think, if they had done that, if they had restored it from a golden image, then I think perhaps I would have addressed this issue. Having said that, there is that concern that you talked about. If they were actually backing up these extensions as something like extra, then that might have been, they still might have reinfected themselves.
Yeah. And also in the article I think we'll post a link in the show description from this article, but they also mentioned that the only way, so this company or this customer got attacked, right? And then they brought in this other company, security company, to do the investigation. Mm-hmm. I think they're called ReliaQuest.
Yeah, ReliaQuest, yeah.
ReliaQuest. And so one of the things they talked about is they actually went through to try to figure out like which extensions are valid and which ones are not, because the customer didn't even know like which ones were supposed to be on this server to start with.
Interesting.
And so I think that becomes a challenge, just to what you were saying, Curtis. It's you restore it. How do you know what was supposed to be there and what wasn't? It's if you don't know what those are and what seems to be legitimate traffic and expected behavior from the application versus what is anomalous.
And the closest analogy that I have to that is, I use WordPress, right, for the website. And WordPress has extensions, right?
Yep.
And it's very easy to install, and activate. It's like it takes like 2 clicks. Install and activate, and it's very common for you to install it, activate, play with it for a little bit, decide not to use it, and then just leave it there.
Yep.
Bad juju, right? Because you do not want the problem that they had. You want to know what your system inventory is. You want to know what any extensions, applications, etc., that are running in your environment, and
patch it.
Ones that are not actively being used should be either removed, like you said, and also patched. Yes, actively patched. Yeah. So they did ultimately get rid of this problem. I don't know. Did they talk in the article? I didn't see. Did they figure out what damage was done?
They looked to see the spread, but they didn't find anything else.
Yeah. Okay. They don't really know, I guess.
Or it wasn't mentioned. Yeah. But they did warn that just given the behavior of what's it called? Flax Typhoon?
Yeah.
Given the behavior of Flax Typhoon, it's one of these groups that plans methodically before attacking. So they were mentioning that they've probably also already figured out what they're going to do next, and it's just a matter of time before they act.
Yay. So let's talk about what they could have done differently. And of course, this article that we're reading is a blog post by ReliaQuest. And of course, one of ReliaQuest's strategies is to use ReliaQuest software, right? One of which is called Agentic AI. And not necessarily that, but I agree with their recommendation in that the problem here was that the tools that they were using were typically hunting for IOCs. You want to talk about what that is?
Yeah, this is indications of compromise.
Right.
Things that help you understand, okay, I was compromised because I might see a log file or a binary with this sort of signature on it and other things to indicate that, yes, something has attacked me.
Yeah, and so instead of hunting for known bad software, you can hunt for unknown behavior, right? So is this because the problem is this was essentially custom software.
Yep.
And so anything that's hunting for known signatures is not going to find anything wrong. But if they had been watching the activity of what this thing was doing, then they would have seen these odd requests. And they go ahead.
But one thing though that, and I don't know, maybe the customer didn't have the best tools in place, but they were doing things like creating services on startup, seeing if it failed, restarting, like all of these things, which I would assume you would flag regardless as, right, hey, this is some bad behavior. Maybe I should go look at it. Like almost sort of like your basics, right?
If you're watching for that sort of thing,
yeah.
Right? A lot of people, especially people that are not cyber, I don't know, savvy, not terribly cyber set, but they talked about that they had the ability to do automated response playbooks, and at the first time this command started running weird "who am I?" like who runs a "who am I" command, right? As soon as they did that, they said they would have quarantined that server. It wouldn't have been able to talk to other people. Also, as soon as it started talking to C2 servers, what are C2 servers?
This is command and control servers.
Yeah.
So think of it as servers out there on the internet that these malicious actors control that send commands to these endpoints telling it what to do.
Yeah. And so as soon as it saw that it was talking to command and control servers, it would have basically blocked that IP. So basically, and we've talked about this. I recommend it's AI is not the silver bullet for everything, but this is one thing where AI and machine learning can be very helpful, where you can watch how applications typically behave, and then when they start doing stuff that they're not normally doing, you can flag it, and you can go, maybe you do it automatically, but maybe you don't. But at least you flag it, right? And at least they wouldn't have been there for a year.
Can I add something to this list?
Yeah, sure.
Not directly related to what ReliaQuest talked about, but I think periodically you should be going and doing an inventory of your systems.
Yeah.
and figuring out what's running. Do I have it, just like patch management, right? Do I have the right patches on all the systems? Are people using these extensions? Do the right people have access to the systems that need access? Are there people I should be kicking off, right?
Yeah.
All of these other things should be sort of like proper, like
Cyber
cleanup.
hygiene.
Yeah, cyber hygiene. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That people should be doing that could have prevented some of these things. Like,
I
especially
may
12 months is a long time.
I may or may not have been recently editing a chapter that used the phrase cyber hygiene, so I had it read at the ready. So they've got an action plan here of 4 things, and I couldn't agree more with all of them, right? Although, well, they use bigger words than I would. So they talk about audit and hardening public-facing applications. So if you have an application that is talking to the internet, this is one that you really need to be locking down that server and that application as much as you can, more so than a server that simply runs inside your IT environment. And today, what isn't a public-facing application? That's what I want to say.
Well,
right?
I think in this case, they're also talking about things that are visible from the internet rather than things that might need internet access.
Well, what I'm saying, though, is like everybody uses SaaS apps. So like all SaaS apps are public facing applications. That's what I'm saying. Like the days of we've got 3 apps in the cloud and or 3 apps that are public facing and the rest of our apps are just inside the data center. It's like, what's a data center?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm saying everything seems to be public facing. But
but yes, SaaS apps, I agree. But I would say from a customer perspective, the SaaS apps are not their problem. It's the infrastructure vendors' problem, minus basic access controls and other things they should be doing.
Agreed. Agreed.
But there's very little that they can control in a SaaS apps case versus...
yes, agreed. I guess what they're saying is if you do have actual apps running in your data center that are public facing, then you really should be...
doing things like network segmentation and blah, 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 right?
Yeah. We talked about it already, but they talked about moving beyond IOC-based detection. You need to be looking at behavioral-based detection at this point, right?
I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Does your book cover any of this?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah. I think so. It's all up in my head, like, going through all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, we do talk about, well, I'll just say this. The book is focused on an assumed breach standpoint. The focus of the book is not how to stop all ransomware, right? The focus of the book is you're probably going to get ransomware, so here's how to stop it. There is one chapter in the book that says, look, you really need to do these things. And we do in that chapter, and it was literally that chapter I was just editing. In that chapter, we do talk about like the things that you absolutely have to do. And one of them is this next one, which is strong credential hygiene, right? I just pulled a recent copy of this
Password 123 is not good.
Yeah. So it's from a company called Hive Systems, and they have a password length guessing time table, right? And if you have a password length of if you just have letters, they've got like a password length of 12 is 27,000 years. But the key here is that length is better than complexity, right? So like, for example, if you've got numbers, upper and lowercase letters, and symbols, and your password length is 6 characters long, so it's as complex as it could possibly be, and it's 6 characters long, how long do you think it takes to guess that?
1 year.
2 weeks. If it's 7 characters long, it's 2 years, right? At 8, now it's 164 years, right? So the real key is like length.
What if you get rid of symbols?
So if here's a beautiful thing. If all I do is have a long password, 12 character password, and all I do is use lowercase letters, So 12-character password. Now, mind you, over there we had a 6-character password, but it was as complex as it could possibly be. That was 2 weeks. I'm going to have a 12-character password, and it's lowercase letters only. Mm-hmm. How long do you think it takes?
172 years.
27,000 years.
Yeah.
So what have we learned? Linked is better than complexity, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it doesn't have to be a single word. It could be a sentence.
Yes, it can. Yes. Like persona is awesome. That's one.
Duh.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the thing is like you need, so they had a guessable password, or they stole password. And then so they got a password. What did they also not have? If they had this thing, they would have stopped this password.
MFA.
Yes. Thank you. MFA, please, for the love of God, everybody, can you please, if you're still using passwords, please put MFA on everything that matters. How hard is this? It's just killing me, right? Look at passkeys. If you can't do passkeys, at least put on MFA.
Yeah.
And if your app, the response from your support from your app is like, what's MFA? Time to get a new app, right? But so if you got password management and MFA, then if they had just turned on MFA, that would have solved this problem. And then also, yes, patch management, right? Potentially, if this SOE was part of the overall package, perhaps if they had updated the package, it would have actually overwritten the SOE. Don't actually know that much about that thing, but I don't know. So basically, get better passwords, turn MFA on for anything that matters, and investigate. Those are the things you have to do, right? Investigate behavioral-based detection.
Yeah.
That IOC-based detection is so last year.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I took away from the article is it's not just. Don't expect that someone is just going to have a malware.exe file running somewhere, right? Yeah. It could be part of your normal software stack and tools that you have out there that look legitimate that they've compromised. So
yeah, and don't trust them, right? Just you should be watching to see what they normally do, and then see when they do weird things.
Yep.
And when they do weird things, I go whoop whoop, put off the klaxon alert.
Yep.
All right. Well, this has been fun, Prasanna.
Likewise, Curtis. Although I do miss your stories.
I just didn't have it. Any this time. We'll see. We're working on this new format.
Let us know what you think.
This was good. It was a really complex topic to cover in a shorter format.
Yeah.
It would have been a lot easier to talk about this for 40 minutes.
But let us know, listeners, if you like this format. Yeah. If you don't, leave us a comment on your favorite podcatcher. We have YouTube videos. You can look at our gorgeous faces on YouTube. So leave us a comment there. We love to hear from you. But let us know what you think of this.
One of us has a gorgeous face. The other has long hair. All right. Thank you very much, Prasanna. It's been fun.
Likewise, Curtis. You have a good one.
And thanks, listeners. You're why we do this. That is a wrap. The Backup Wrap-Up is written, recorded, and produced by me, W. Curtis Preston. If you need backup or DR consulting, content generation, or expert witness work, check out backupcentral.com. You can also find links for my O'Reilly books on the same website. Remember, this is an independent podcast, and any opinions that you hear are those of the speaker and not necessarily an employer. Thanks for listening.